What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have my Miami Dolphins season preview for y'all, so let's hop into it. And if you like this type of stuff, please consider subscribing. But anyway, last year the Dolphins finished with a 9-8 record, which was good enough for second place in the AFC East, and they clinched a wild card spot, but they went on to lose in the wild card round 34-31 to the Buffalo Bills. So ultimately a disappointing end to the season, not even making it out of the wild card game. But hey, at least they still made the playoffs. And their roster is going to get a whole lot better because they did add a decent chunk of players, and a lot of them will make an impact. So let's hop straight into that. First off, they signed linebacker David Long. Then they got defensive back Deshaun Elliott, quarterback Mike White, wide receiver Braxton Berrios, punter Jake Bailey, wide receiver Chosen Anderson, tight end Tyler Croft, offensive tackle Isaiah Wynn, linebacker Malik Reed, and cornerback Eli Apple. So a ton of guys that can come in and make an impact. And they also made a trade for cornerback Jalen Ramsey. I know he did suffer an injury and will miss the first chunk of this season, but still they got Ramsey to bolster that defense through the stretch run of this year. So that'll be a definite improvement on the defense. And the Dolphins did a good job of re-signing in-house guys as well. Running backs Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, offensive tackle Kendall Lamb, linebacker Duke Riley, linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel, defensive back Justin Bethel, tight end Durham Smythe. So yeah, just a group of veteran guys all around the ball that they're bringing back to help this team and take the next step this year. But even with all these signings and re-signings, they did lose a handful of players as well. Cornerback Byron Jones, tight end Mike Gesicki, cornerback Eric Rowe, tight end Hunter Long, who was part of that Jalen Ramsey deal, offensive tackle Greg Little, quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, defensive end Melvin Ingram, linebacker Elandon Roberts. But a lot of those guys, like I said before, were replaced with guys that they brought in. Cornerback Byron Jones, they went out and got Eli Apple. Tight end Mike Gesicki, they went out and got Tyler Croft. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, they went out and got Mike White. And the list just kind of goes on with their free agents. So the guys, they lost a decent bit, but they re-signed the guys to fill their roles nicely. So it's really not a big deal. The Dolphins also got a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. He was a former head coach of the Denver Broncos. And he has a ton of talent on that Miami Dolphins defense to play around with, so it will be interesting to see how he handles that group come this season. So the last thing I'm going to talk about before I get over to their schedule and my record prediction for the team is their rookie class, and they did lose their first round pick this past draft because of the illegal Tom Brady tampering thing. So they only had 4 picks, and they got cornerback Cam Smith, running back Devon Aikman, wide receiver Elijah Higgins, and offensive tackle Ryan Hayes. And this group, nothing real flashy about it. I think this is probably one of the weaker draft classes of this past year just because of the lack of picks and the lack of early round picks. But overall, their whole draft class was just nothing to write home about. So let's just move on to their schedule and my record prediction for the Dolphins. So in week 1, they have the Los Angeles Chargers on the road, and I think this is a tough environment to go into in week 1, and I do think the Dolphins probably lose this game right here. And I do have high hopes for the Dolphins for this year, and if this game was later in the season, I would probably give them the win, but with it being week 1 and on the road, I feel safe giving them the loss right here. But in week 2, they have their first matchup with the New England Patriots, and I believe the Dolphins will sweep the Patriots this year. I think the Patriots are the worst team in the AFC East, and I think the Dolphins will challenge the Bills for the AFC East title. So the Dolphins sweep the Patriots in week 2 and in week 8. And then in week 3, they play the Denver Broncos, and at this point in the season for the Broncos, I don't know if Sean Payton's offense and team is all meshing well, clicking well. But either way, even if it is, the Dolphins are a better team and will beat the Broncos. And then in week 4, they have their first matchup against the Buffalo Bills. And this one is in Buffalo. So because of that, I will give the Dolphins the loss. I do think they will probably split the season series with the Bills. So they lose in week 4, but they win down here in week 18. And then in week 5, they have the New York Giants. And this, I think, is going to be a really good game. But I do believe the Dolphins will pull it out and beat the Giants. And then they play the following week in week 6, the Carolina Panthers, led by a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. And the Dolphins get a relatively easy win right here. So moving on, in week 7, they have the Philadelphia Eagles. And this game is in Philadelphia. It's a primetime game. And I think they probably lose this one to the Eagles right here. And then we already talked about the Patriots, them sweeping them in week 2 and 8. And then in week 9 right here, they have the Kansas City Chiefs right before their bye week. And once again, they have another tough opponent on the road. And Arrowhead is definitely a tough place to go in and get the win. and because of that, I feel like they probably lose right here to the Chiefs. So here in their Week 10 bye, they're sitting at a 5-4 record. Nothing too flashy so far, just above that 500 mark. But coming out of the bye, I think they're going to be playing really good football. And with that, they beat the Raiders relatively easily. And then in Week 12, they have their first matchup with the Jets, and I think the Dolphins will sweep the Jets. I don't think Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are going to be the greatest team that everybody's making them out to be this year. And I have higher hopes for the Dolphins than them, so I think they sweep the Jets. In Week 13, they play the Washington Commanders. Once again, another relatively easy win for this team. And at this point in the season, after their bye week, they should have Jalen Ramsey back, which will be a huge boost to that defense. So all the more reason that they will be winning some of these tougher games down the stretch. And then in Week 14, they have the Tennessee Titans. And Derrick Henry is really Tennessee's only offensive weapon. And if the Dolphins can shut him down with their new and improved defense, I feel they win this game also relatively easily right there. And then in Week 16 right here, they have a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, and hopefully the Dolphins are fully healthy at this point, and Tua stays out of concussion protocol, and he has no scary injuries on the field. And if he does show any sign of injuries, the Dolphins do the smart thing and don't put him back in the game or start him the next week. And if the Dolphins are injured, this Dallas Cowboys team is a pretty complete roster, so because of that, I think the Dolphins probably slip up and lose to the Cowboys, which isn't a big deal because it's a non-conference game and doesn't have too much impact on the playoff seedings, besides it just being a flat-out loss. But then in Week 17, they have the Baltimore Ravens, and this matchup could really go either way, and I think it's going to come down to whoever is the healthiest. Is it going to be Lamar Jackson? Is he playing in this game? Is Tua playing in this game? And whoever is, well, if they're both playing, then it'll be a great game. But if one of them isn't, the game is going to go to the other team. But with this being on the road, I think the Ravens probably pull this one out right here. But then in Week 18, like we already talked about, they split the season series with the Bills and win this one right here. And that brings the Miami Dolphins season total to 11-6. Another really good year for the team. They did show a ton of improvement, winning a couple more games than last year. They make it back to the playoffs. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this record. Do you think this is just right about where the Dolphins will be? Do you think they will be better? Do you think they will be worse? Let me know. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you with another season preview. God bless.